Hi guys, and welcome back to Crafty Quilting Designs. I hope you're well. As you can see, I'm wearing my glasses today. So I'll be doing some finer details. Okay, so I wanted to share with you an update with my Innovis brother sewing machine, which is the NV1800 model. And I know a few people have bought it and contacted me and asked me how is it going, etc. And certain functions they wanted to learn how to use. Well, I'm going to try and go in depth as much as possible. And I will be very honest with you in terms of how the machine works and whatever knickknacks or problems that I've actually encountered with it. Okay, so I'll give you my disadvantages and my advantages of actually owning this particular machine. Now, the machine is very expensive, as most of you probably would know if you've actually researched the price of it. So it's a very expensive machine, but it's also a very good machine. And let me put it out there, I'm not being paid for this, okay? When I actually bought this machine, I just researched it and I found it and I fell in love with it, and I actually bought it for myself and did my first sort of unboxing of the machine itself, and the reason why I actually bought it, which was really because I just wanted one, if I have to be honest. But since then I have used the machine every single time. I wouldn't say every day, but it's a workhorse. It's a good machine in that sense that you can use it on a regular basis and you wouldn't really encounter any problems. But let me just finish what I was saying, is that I am not being paid for this. This is just to share with all of my fellow quilters out there if you're looking for a new sewing machine and what is ideal for you to use. So I'm going to take you through how it actually works, how to thread the machine, etc. And just basic things that I have encountered, as I said, positives and negatives about it, some of the stitches, etc. Okay, so let's go do that now, and hopefully I would have encouraged you to buy the machine or discourage you from buying the machine, but that decision will, of course, will be entirely down to you. So let's get started. All right, so this is what the machine actually looks like, and most likely you would have known that already. Now what I'm going to go through is just the features on the front as we take it bit by bit, because there's a lot of things to talk about. So I'm going to go through first of all the front of the machine here, as well as the drop bobbin. Okay, now the first thing I would say is that all of your stitches are on your panels here. This machine comes with 232 stitches in total. These stitches here are your utility stitches, and you would see it there with that particular function. All right, and then you have all of your other stitches here that has these particular icons for you to function with, and there's 3 icons there, and then there's your lettering stitches column in the last area there. Now it comes with a drop bobbin, which is really nice. So one of the things I love about it is that you can just simply open up and drop the bobbin in, and it's a jam proof drop bobbin, so the thread doesn't jam up at all. Okay, another good quality about this machine is that this particular the lid here is a magnifying glass, so if I were to thread the machine, I would be able to see it through that little area there. It will increase it if I wanted to thread the machine for, it's like double needles, etc. Okay, and that's a really good function for that. Another function about with the actual threading is that it because it's a drop bobbin, you don't need to pull up your thread before you start sewing. Okay, because it's a drop bobbin, it does that for you. It'll put it up automatically, and so it does not to thread. Okay, so that's a really good stage as well. It comes with an automatic threader. I've got my free motion foot close to a foot on it because I was literally just doing some free motion quilting, and I thought I'll just do the machine. I thought I'll do the video now for you. It comes with details. It tells you how to actually thread the machine, which is quite easy. I probably wouldn't demonstrate that. It's very easy because you just follow. Just get my pointy tool. You follow the number 1, all the way down. Number 2, you come down to number 3 there, you go back up. Just like any ordinary machine, it actually tells you how to do it. And you know, it's quite easy, to be honest. When I first bought the machine 7 months ago, no one showed me how to do that. I just simply follow through the lines, and that's really good. It's self-taught in that particular way. There is your thread holder there. There's another one that's given, but I don't necessarily use it for any extra thread holders. I kind of tend to store my bobbins on there. I've got a separate thread holder for larger cones of thread that I actually use. It also threads or winds your bobbins for you, which I would expect with any other normal sewing machine, and it does a pretty good job of that as well. And again, it tells you how to do that with sort of arrows, etc., as you can see in the corner there. So that's quite simplistic. There is nothing I think I should really show about that. I think the most important things is discussing the front here as well as the panels, which is very, very important. So I will go through what these functions on the screen is for. Okay, now this is your drop down or press a foot down, up down feature, and I'll press that just to make sure I can demonstrate that there, as you can see. So it goes up and it goes down. Okay, you also have your knee lift as well. I'm going to use the knee lift, the knee lift, just to demonstrate that as well. Also, I noticed that the light changes, just to give you another visual reminder what is actually happening. So I'll do that again. Okay, so it's up and then it goes back down to say good to go. All right, and that's that really. This machine, you must, when you're threading it, you must make sure that this little cap here, I don't know if you can see that, but that's one of the things that actually tricked me in the first time. There's a little cap there that must disappear. So for example, you cannot re-thread the machine with that being down. Don't try and force it back either. So you just need to lift it up and it will go back up. Okay, you can also use your function there and it does it for you. As you can see, it actually goes back. So that's there for a reason. Okay, so don't try and force that. I'm going to put that back down. Right, the green light obviously tells me I am good to go because I can sew, and my machine feet in this particular case is going to be down and ready and in function to engage. Now, as my quilting feet is on, the feed dogs are dropped, and that's literally at the back of the machine there, and that's quite easy. You just pull it all out and put it adjust it, and then it's fine. It comes with a lot of compartments in here to actually store all of your feet in there as well, and you've also got another compartment at the back as well to store, which is pretty handy. Okay, it comes with a really large quilting table, which is ideal, which I use a lot for my quilting. All right, now let's go back to the functions on the front here. So this can be used as your start stop button. Now currently my control feet is actually plugged in, and I'm just going to go to the side so you can actually see what I'm talking about there. So if I were to unplug that, I can then use the machine as a start stop function, so meaning I can just use my hand to start and stop. If I were to press this, it will beep. Okay, and the beep just says simply say no. If you want to use the start stop control, you need to unplug the foot controller, and the machine also tells you that there. One good thing about this machine, it beeps at you to say, hey, no, you can't do that, you're not following instructions. So the beep means no. It always beeps you if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Okay, this particular button here now is your reverse stitch. And if you wanted to do a reverse stitch at the start or the end of your sewing, you will press that, but you can only press it during the sewing. This one here is to lock your stitches in. And this works two ways. You can press this to start. So for example, if you're quilting and you wanted to press that to lock the stitches in, you can. But in all honesty, I don't necessarily use that because the drop bobbin does that for me. I can just simply start sewing as soon as I drop my bobbin in there. I don't necessarily need to lock the stitches or to bring the thread up to the top and then snip it. There is no need to do that for free motion quilting. The bobbin does that for you automatically, and a beautiful thing about it. All right. Another thing I'll mention is that in fact, I'll continue. This one here is your needle up, needle down position, and if I press that, the needle will go up, and I'll just move it down so you can see the needle go down. Okay, it's entirely down to you. Obviously, if you wanted to put the needle down or up for whatever reason, you press it, you select it right there. This one is to cut your threads, and if you stop and you want to cut threads, by all means. We've already talked about this, so that's your machine feet up or down feature. This particular function here is how fast you want to sew. So number 1 is very slow, number 2 is medium, and of course number 3 is quite fast. Okay, so those are the features there on that particular one. What I also wanted to mention is that when you have your normal feet on, and I'll just express it, this machine has something called an eye caps feature. And what that simply means is that it can automatically detect the thickness of your fabric. So this is really ideal again for quilting, or if you're sewing really thick fabric, whether it's maybe denim materials or you're just sewing 3 or 4 layers together, it automatically adjusts the thickness of your sewing, so that way you get even sewing. And there's a function to do that within the panel here, and I will show you how to find that. Okay, so I think that's it for the actual front of the machine, and then what I will do next is we will go to how we actually select these particular functions here using the display panel. Now, before I move on to that, let me just talk about the lighting. One of the reasons I also bought this machine was because of the lighting. You have a light right underneath there, which is ideal for when you're sewing at night or even during the day, because you really want to see what you're doing. And I do a lot of quilting, so I mainly bought this machine because I wanted to quilt. It is really ideal for that. I would say it's a definite quilting machine. And also there's another light here as well, so literally right above the needle, and that is absolutely perfect. So you got one there in the middle and one there by the needle. Again, very, 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 very functional in that particular sense. So I think that's it. So let's move on now to the panel here, discussing the panel and how to operate that, and then how to use some of the functions up here also. So let's go. Okay guys, so I've changed my foot to the foot it actually came with when I just my ordinary feet or functionality feet for most things that you can sew with. All right, so I've put that back on, and I still have the machine on free motion. Okay, it tells me there, and I just wanted to point that out rather than changing it. So it's still telling me that my free motion feet is on, which it isn't obviously, but I haven't changed that function within the panel here. It is also telling me that I'm on the keypad, which is highlighted there also, which is more or less here. Okay, it is also telling me that my stitches are going to be repeated, and it's also telling me that my needle up down, my needle is in down position, because I can also change that function within the panel here also. This represents my stitch width, and obviously when you're free motion quilting, you change the length of your stitches as well as the width of your stitches. So that function is not there, or you cannot adjust it. If I were to select it, even if I do, it's still, and it gives me a number, it still wouldn't really respond in that particular way. Okay, because remember, with free motion, you're the one who governs the size of the stitches by how fast or slow you move your hands. Okay, and it's also telling me that the straight line here is just straight stitches, which is what free motion is, until you yourself move your hand to change the size, the width, the position, etc., the shape of that particular stitch. So this is telling me here that it's on 0, the width and the length, sorry, is 2.5, and this is my tension. I do not ever interfere with my tension at all. I don't play around with that. One of the reasons for buying this machine is because with my older one, I necessarily had to always test the fabric out before I did any free motion. Okay, and that used to annoy the bejesus out of me. So I hated doing that. So this was one of the functions that I really wanted in a particular sewing machine, and this does that for me. I don't have to worry about making any adjustments. Okay. This is feature here is my pivot foot, and that tells me if once it's on, I think I went through that already, about the function is already set in the machine. So once all these lights are actually on, you're telling the machine to do those functions automatically. So if I were to sew and to choose one of my decorative stitches up here, it will perform those functions automatically. So what the machine will do is, once I have actually started to sew, it will do a reverse stitch. Okay, if I needed to stop and take my feet off of the foot controller and I wanted to maneuver, so I can turn the fabric left, right, center, etc., the presser foot will automatically raise, but the needle will stay down. If you notice, there's a down position, the needle is down, and the little presser foot is slightly above it, so the needle will stay down so I can have that pivot function. My apologies if my ring light is on them. Really trying to get a decent position for you. And then obviously it will cut the thread once I have finished sewing. Okay, another way of actually working with these three functions here is with this particular lock stitch in there. Remember we spoke about that earlier, that if I wanted to bring my thread up, which I don't really have any need to because of the drop down bobbin feature in this particular sewing machine, that but if I wanted to lock the stitches in, I will then select this. The light will come on only though if I am operating one of these decorative stitches here. All right, so these are my first column here. They all come in particular icons, and it's in relation to what's on your panel here. All right, so what we're going to do next is to operate this particular panel, and so you can see exactly how it actually functions. So we'll go into the panel and remove this, and I can do that now. If I just show you very briefly, if I were to press this button here, it will take me to the settings page, and it will take me through how to go through everything. But we will go through that in the next video, or we will go through that. Okay, I think that's it for now. So what I want to do is to get some fabric and demonstrate how to actually work this particular function with all of these here, and to show you how to operate the function of selecting a quilting stitch. Now the quilting stitches comes in with icon 1 here, this particular icon, and number 1. Now all of your decorative stitches comes in this particular symbol. You have this category of number 1, you have number 2 there, and you have number 3 there. Okay, so your quilting stitches is number 69, that one there. I have used number 69, and I have used number 72. I did do some practice, or when I say practice, I did make an iPad cover. Let me show it to you now what the quilting stitches are like, and it's quite huge. When I say quite huge, it's a decent size. So that is what it looks like. So hopefully you can see that there. I want to turn it on the red side there as well. All right, but I'll take you through how to actually do it, how to select it, etc. And so let's go do that now so that you're clear on how to do it, because that's one of the questions a lot of people always ask me, you know, how do I get those quilting stitches there? So just remember, it's on your icon 1 there, and it's stitch number 69 and 72, which I have tried. I have not tried 70, and I think I've tried 32, but I've mainly done 72 and 69. Those are the ones I've actually done for quilting on this particular iPad case that I did. So let's go do that now, and we'll see how it goes. So let's go back to the panel. Currently it is telling me that I am on utility stitch 1, or my needle is positioned to 1, which is sort of slightly left to the machine itself. So let me show you there. So you can see it's not centered, it's just slightly positioned left. If I were to change it, and I'm going to go to, can you see I press 0 there, and it's go to the other side to right, and it's telling me I have a different zigzag stitch now. Okay, and I'll just go back up here, and you can see where all of that actually relates to there. So that's your utility stitches. So your zigzag, you know, your overlocking stitch, all those sort of stitches. Okay, let's go back to it as well, your button stitches, etc. I'm gonna just get my little pointing tool. Button stitches all the way down there. Okay, now one other good thing about this particular sewing machine is it's got a position whereby you can sew left to right to get wider stitches. Okay, so if you wanted to quilt a larger area, you can use these buttons here. So as long as you select that function in your settings area, you should be able to operate that. Okay, now let's move back to here. So it's telling me now I've got that zigzag stitch on. It's also telling me that I have my presser foot J on, which I do. Okay, so I'm going to clear that. Okay, I need to press OK first. I need to clear that, and then I can actually get started. So I'm going to go into this icon here. Okay, and it's asking me, is it okay to cancel the current pattern? I'm going to say okay. Okay, so what it's done now, it's given me that icon 1. So icon 1 relates to all the stitches in icon 1 up here, and that's where we want to be, because that's where my number 69 and 71 72, which I've actually used to do some quilting. In fact, practice quilting. To be honest, I've always done free motion. I have not really used these for quilting, only on this particular pad, as I said, when I made my iPad case, and it came out looking really good when I was quite pleased with it. Okay, I've also used it for zigzag lines, and I've used my walking foot for that as well. Okay, so to select now, I'm going to select, I'm going to go for 69 first, and I'm just going to press 6, 9 and go OK, and you can see it's actually changed. Now, if you would notice here, there is nothing comes up for the number, so there's no stitch width, no stitch length. However, my tension is there. Okay, remember, the machine automatically adjusts the tension for you. I apologize my ring light in there, but that's the best I can get the panel all lit up for you, because otherwise it's starting to get a bit overcast, so the room is getting dark. So what I'm going to do now is to stitch this particular function, and then you'll see how large it actually gets. So I'm going to put these lights on here, so it does those functions as well. Okay, right, just bear with me guys, I'm just using one hand to do everything. So there we go. So it's sewing, and you can see it's going to get bigger. I'm going closer. Hopefully I've given it enough space. that is your meandering stitch there, which I think comes up to approximately 40 millimeters, sorry, bow stitching. As you can see how it's moving left to right. And if I were to add on that particular function I showed you earlier, it can give me a wider stitch also. Okay, just notice it pivot there for itself. Okay, now and it's cutting the thread because I've taken my feet off now. Okay, and there you go. So that is your meandering large stitches there, if you wanted to do some free motion quilting using that. What I will do is do the smaller stitch so you can see the difference. So I'm going to put that back down. I'm going to come back over here to my panel, and I'm going to press cancel, so it cancels it. Okay, and I'm going to go back into my stitches up there, and you see the stitches change again, and it's giving me back my J again, and it's telling me I'm back where I started to number 1 there, where the needle position was changed, and I'm just going to have straight stitching lines. Okay, and again it's telling me that my stitches are repeated. Okay, if I were to have one of that shape there, it will just be one stitch it will perform for me, and I can also alter that in my settings here, which I'll show you an example of. Now let me just do that quick sample stitch, so then that way you can have an idea. So I'm going to go back to this column here, and I'm going to choose 54. So I'm going to do right, so I'm going to change it now to 54 using this icon here, and I'm going to press this icon here as well. Okay, it's asking me if it's okay to cancel. Yes, so I'm now back in. I've stitched that wrong. That's the one I need to go in. So there it is, and I'll go 54. There it is, and it's giving me my stitches there. So I'm going to sew that now, and you'll see the difference in the size of on the highest speed, so it's giving me good stitches and quite a lot of stitches per minute there, or per sewing. Alright, so I'm going to stop there now and cut that thread. There you go. So you can see the difference in how huge it actually is. I'm just flattening that out there so it doesn't give you a shadow. How large the stitches are in comparison. So hopefully you can see that quite clearly there. All right, so again, let's try one more. I'm going to go and do the spiral one now. So again, I'm going to come out of this here. Okay, so I'm going to do cancel, and what I'm going to do now is to go back in this icon 1 there. So I'm going to press icon 1 there, and again, the machine is asking me, is it okay to cancel? And I'm going to say yes, and it's giving me my icon 1 there. Okay, and for that I need 72. And there it is. It's giving me that stitch there, and number 72 is, let me find it because I'm looking through the camera also, 72 there. All right. Okay, so let's go back down. Again, notice there is no stitch width, no stitch length, but the tension is done for you. What I wanted to point out as I'm here, when it's highlighted like that, that is factory settings. Okay, this factory settings. So if, for example, you were to press that and it gone off, and it's the factory settings light have gone off, what you're basically telling the machine now is, look, I'm in control. This is what I want you to do my tension at. Okay, but if you did it by accident and you think, oh, I don't know how to get it back, what you need to do is just keep pressing until it actually comes back. So I'm going to do it the opposite way. Just going to keep going, and there you go. It's come back. It's highlighted. Okay, so that's the factory settings. All right. If I were to press this button down here, remember I told you you can get your repeated stitch or your singular stitch. I'm going to press it there, and now I've changed it to just one stitch, and the machine as well has also identified that. Okay, what I can also do as well, if I wanted to add on another stitch or another decorative stitch onto there, I can also add on another stitch within that particular icon. All right, so let's say, for example, I wanted to add on number 35. I can add that on as well, and it will give me a plus of number 35, whatever number 35 stitch is in that particular area. If I also wanted to add on a name, for example, I can do that in the alphabetical area as well. However, what you need to be mindful of is that if you're going to add on anything else, I would need to change that back so that my stitches are repeated. All right, so if I press that back, okay, and press it back, and it has returned. Okay, and another thing you got to remember is to press OK all the time. The machine is very much computerized. It needs your instructions in order for it to function correctly. Right, so let's do this stitch now so you can see the difference. And I'm just going to go ahead and press that. Again, it's giving you a nice big stitch, and it's really moving to the right. Remember that function. If you wanted to make it bigger, you can also adjust it. Really lovely. So again, if you wanted to do your quilting, it's ideal. It will be a little bit slower than free motion, obviously, but if you can't do it as yet and you want something that is, you know, not too stressful on your shoulders, etc., it will work. There you go. So it's really making that beautiful big loop for me. But really all you got to do is guide the fabric. In fact, I'm not even holding it. It's actually doing it on its own. But, you know, because it's what you do in sewing, isn't it? You would guide the sewing by holding the fabric. So, and I'm going over the original stitches there, but it's just for demonstration purposes, so you know exactly what actually is doing. I'm going to stop in the mode. Absolutely lovely. It's really ideal, you know, because as I said, I've used it just for here you go, just for actually quilting my iPad case, and that's what it looks like. Really good, really good. All right, so let's move on to show you more functions on this side now, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, so let's look at how we can actually save some stitches. I am in stitch icon 2, and I'm going to select some stitches from there. So I'm going to select number 13, and it tells me the stitches there, and it shows me the stars I've selected. It is also telling me that my press of foot, or my foot, the feet I should have on, is an N. And it also tells me that my stitches are repeated there because I've got those two hearts there also. It also tells me the number I have actually selected. Okay, I'm going to add on another stitch from that particular icon area. So I'm going to go with number 1. So I'll go 0, 1. Okay, and now it is also now giving me the option if I wanted to just have one round of each of those stitch. It will just stitch one star and watch one of this mounting thingy. I don't know what it is exactly, but that is exactly what it would stitch. Okay, there isn't a stitch width selected, nor length, but the tension is already done for you, so you don't have to mess around with that. Okay, so I'm going to stitch that now. Okay, I don't have my end foot on, I just have my standard feet on, so I'm just going to demonstrate because otherwise I'll keep changing feet all the time. And all of my lights here are actually switched on, so let's see if the machine actually does what I want it to do. Okay, because remember, this is my pivot feet, this is my reverse, and this is my cutting. All right, so let's have a look and see. I'm just going to press start and see what it actually does. Oh, let me just put my presser foot down. Lovely, because again, one good thing about this machine, guys, is if you've done something incorrect, the machine will beep at you. It's just a prompt to say, hey, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And I think I've said that before. So it was just a little reminder, and it comes up on the screen to say, put the presser foot down. In fact, let me do that, and you'll see for yourself. All right. So I'm going to put it on the screen, and I'm just going to press on my foot controller to get started. Look, you see, it tells me, it says use the presser foot lifter button to lower the presser foot. So it's literally referring to this here. Okay, so now that I press start, and you can also see that it's green to go. So it's very informative, very computerized, this computer. It does require a little bit of patience to get to know it, but once you know what you're doing with the machine, it works, it does everything that you have asked it to do, really. All right, so let's get started on that, and let's see if it does all those functions. So I can see it reverse start there, it goes backwards. It's doing the stitch now. And remember, it's one round of each of those stitches that I have asked you to do. It's tying out the stitch, it's knotted in, it just cut it, and now it's lifted up. Okay, so it's literally done that. So you can see it there. All right. Okay, so if I wanted now to save this, all I need to do now is press the save button, and it's going to press it down there, right there, and it's telling me that I want to save number 4 or 5, or I can move down from here. Where is it? I can just move down or up. So these are all the areas. If I wanted to save stitches to memory of the machine, I can save it, and there is my stitch that I've actually saved there. Okay, and then I can keep adding on to that. So if, for example, it says is it okay to delete the stitch pattern, and I'm going to say okay, because and it's saving that, so I don't really want to do that. I don't want to save it. So if I wanted to add on a letter there, all I need to do is press that, and it changes. It's telling me, hey, you can do that now if you wanted to. So I'm just going to choose a letter. I'm just going to do number 11 and do okay, and the K comes up. All right, and if I wanted to sew that, all I need to do again is just press to start to sew as normal. All right, but that's simply it. It tells you everything that you need to do on these panels here in reference to, these are all of your icons when it comes to stitching. You got to remember that. Okay, it also tells you here little utility stitches that you'd need, the numbers that you can select right there quite quickly. All right, this is for saving, this is for locking. So for if you've got little children about and you're stepping away from the machine, all you need to do is select that and nothing works, so the kids cannot come along and mess about with it. So that's really good. I love that function. I actually discovered that by accident. I was thinking, hey, what did I do? So I just had to do a little bit of research and found out about it. There is not much info on YouTube telling you how to really operate this machine, nor does the booklets actually tell you that, how to operate it. You sort of got to learn by trial and error, again, which is not a bad thing because it allows you to understand your sewing machine. I think I mentioned this is for a mirror image here, and this is for your repeating of your stitches. Now let's go to this particular button here, because this is where you will go into to select different functions within the machine. So that's your settings. Okay, so there it is. So I'm going to cancel that there. Right, and let's go back into settings there. So ABC obviously is for your lettering, etc. It tells you there needle position up or down if you wanted to change that. Also remember, these minus and plus signs, they allow it to go up or down. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the top hop there, and if I wanted to perform the function and press it, so to activate that function of having that needle up or down, I will press these buttons on the side here. Okay, so I'm moving down again, twin needle off for on. Again, I will operate plus for yes, minus for no, etc. Okay, and it's just telling me I am on page number 1 here, and I've got 9 pages within this setting area here. All right, so let's move down again. Oh, I don't want to do that, so let's move back up. I'm changing hands because I'm actually holding the camera, so it's a little bit difficult to put pressure because I'm right-handed. So there we go, moving down now. I can operate better. So that's with control off, initial position. Again, remember, if I wanted to change it on, what I'm going to do is press that. Remember, these two here is to say yes or no. Okay, I'm going to go back to no. I'm going to continue to go down. All right. And there it comes again to reinforce priority. Okay, and that's again to do with the fabric, input sensitivity. I don't usually mess around with all of these things. I just leave them as factory settings, to be honest. And it tells me what version I'm working with. I'm going to go back up. Let's go back down before I miss something. Right, okay, there you go. So it has the brightness level there again. If you want to lower the lights on the actual, you can do that, or lower the lights on the panels, you can do that. If you wanted to switch the light itself on or off, if I go back to these yes or no functions is what I relate to them as. So if I press that, it says off there and my light is off. Again to that. Again, also if I want to move up to the buzzer and I don't want the beeping noise, which I kind of like because it keeps me in check of using the machine accurately, again I can switch it off. There you go, on or off, off, on. Okay, obviously if I press off, you're not going to have any sound. And that is more or less it. To be honest, guys, the pivoting height, which is, this relates to the height that the presser foot comes off of the fabric. You can raise that up as it is. It's telling me it's 3.2. Again, I have never really interfered with it because I think the setting works for me. I'm not really bothered about it at all. But I guess if I'm using something really thick, then I will definitely change it. The free motion height again relates to that. It's at factory setting. Again, I've never really interfered with that. I've left it as it is. I have, however, selected the presser foot for the free motion there. And again, if I want that on, I just press on. So again, relate to these as your yes and no buttons. Okay, so I'm going to go back to off. Okay, remember your feed dogs is at the back of the machine here. You need to slide this and it's literally just there, and you can change it whenever you feel like it. I think that's about it. Let me just see if there's anything else to explain about, or I'll just put that on. No, oh, the fabric sensor, that is automatically on. And that was on when I bought it, and I have not interfered with that. Remember, I said that is your ICAP system, which is a very sort of modern way of when you're sewing with the machine, it can automatically detect the thickness of the fabric and adjust it automatically for you, so you don't have to worry about doing something like that. I don't know if you've ever noticed. For some particular machines, if you're stitching something and it's really thick, the stitches can change. It can be really tight, or the machine can struggle basically. But this one, that doesn't happen. The stitches remain consistent. All right. Let me see if there's anything else. No, I think I've covered it all in the system there. So that's literally it, guys. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about the disadvantages. This machine does not like cheap thread. Don't waste your time putting cheap thread into either the bobbin area especially for quilting, you will have tension problems, okay? If you're using thread that is sort of, I don't know, how can I just, if you're using sort of thread to do your applique, it needs to be good quality applique thread, because it will tear, it will break, etc. It's not going to be strong enough for it. I use very good quality needles. Again, I don't use cheap needles. This is an expensive machine and it requires expensive things to be used in it. So what I mean by that, you must buy good quality thread, you must buy good quality needles also. If you insist on using cheap threads, you will have lots of tension problems. And I discovered that when I was trying to do some sewing, and I'm thinking, why is this thread giving me problems? This has not happened before, only to realize it was a cheap thread. And as soon as I changed it, problem was solved. Okay. It does work very well with satin threads, as long as it's good quality, as I said. Okay. You will have your own special brands that you use. I tend to use Coats Moon for a lot of my piecing together. And that works really well with it. The machine loves Coats Moon. And there's another type that I use also for my quilting. I can't remember the name at the moment, but it loves that. But anything cheap and cheerful, forget it. It's not going to work. If you're having any problems in terms of your thread keeps breaking, your needle needs changing. Okay. This machine, it likes you to respect it and use a fresh needle all the time. So if your needle is slightly bent or your needle is tired, and I know that doesn't make sense, but what I mean by that is if you've used your needle over and over again, you will start seeing slip stitches. The thread is going to be breaking. That's because the needle is not sharp anymore. Okay, so you'll need to change it. So I get into the habit of, I will piece with one particular type of needle, so a smaller needle, and then when it comes to quilting, I will change that needle for quilting, because especially if you're making a quilt, and I use my machine on a regular basis. I use my machine probably at least 3-4 times a week. This is a very good machine. You can use it over and over. It operates, it functions, it doesn't give you any problems at all. Okay, so that was one negative about the thread and the needle. It must be good quality, can't be cheapy. What else? The only issue I had with it, that I had to take it back to the engineer, or because obviously it's still on warranty, was this particular thing here. The cord for the power foot, it stopped working, it stopped functioning, it kept beeping. And so when I called Brother up, they automatically, arranged for me to take it to an engineer who looked at it without any issues, and it was back to me within a day or two. It didn't take long. So apparently it is a bit of a problem there with that. That's the only negative, but since he has repaired it, no problems, it's fine. So I think it was probably just a one-off, I don't know, but I've never had any other negatives with it at all. Sometimes what I would say for here, it's very sensitive, and hence the reason why I say you really need to learn how to function, how to operate this particular panel here. Because when I first got the machine, I kept touching something within the settings, and what I was doing was removing the pivot function without realizing, and that was the the needle up down position. I kept interfering with it without realizing, and I had to call the engineer, and he was so good. He literally went through with it on the phone with me how to get it. It was fantastic. Now I don't know where you're going to buy yours, but obviously I'm in England. And he was very good. He was very patient with me. He took me through the whole panel, and it's good that he knew the machine as well. So if you know somebody who knows the machine, and Brother can recommend that was ideal. But that was really the only two things, to be honest. that I had issues with, but now that I know how to operate this, I can, even if I touch it slightly, which you can do quite easily, I can put it back to its natural function for myself, and I haven't had any problems with that since it was taken care of. And I think that's literally about it. The machine is beautiful. It's a workhorse. It always responds. I never have any problems with it at all. There is no tension problems. There is no threading problems. There's an automatic threader which works. Everything I have asked it to do, it has responded. The only thing I would say again is to clean it regularly, which I do. So after every major project, I would literally clean the machine. So after my piecing, I will clean the machine. After quilting, I will clean the machine, because I think it needs that. There is no need to oil it or anything like that. There's an automatic feature that does that, and I don't know how that works, but that there is no need to do any oiling or anything like that. So guys, I really think that is it for this review on this Brother 1800Q. I've owned this machine about 7 months now, and I will say that I'm very pleased with it. It's a very good buy. I have no regrets in buying it at all. Any questions, please feel free to drop me a line and ask me a question. I have no problems in answering the questions at all. You know, it's a lovely machine. I love it. She's my baby. I've given her a flower because, you know, my favorite color is blue. And yeah, she's a princess. She's no drama at all. And this is what I wanted with a sewing machine. So guys, thank you for joining me on this review of this sewing machine. And if you have any problems, once again, don't hesitate to give me a buzz, and I will definitely do my best to answer your question. And even if I don't know, I will phone up my engineer and ask him. But as I said, he's very helpful, very helpful man at all. No problems at all. So there you go. So that's it for this review. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in, and I shall see you next week with my another quilt. So once again, bye for now, and happy quilting.